So in this video, we're going to discuss risk testing, right? Risk management testing. What is risk? You know, of course, risk is the probability or possibility of occurrence of an unwanted or undesirable event, right? Or an encounter with an adverse result, right? Risk is the possibility of something we don't want happening to happen. So that's risk, right? In testing, of course, we look out for risk, right? We try to envision and manage risk to ensure that it doesn't happen, right? We don't want risky scenarios to come up in production and, you know, cause unexpected issues for the customers, for the business, for the software, for the infrastructure. There's a lot involved, when dealing with risk. So, of course, the process of risk analysis entails identification of risk associated with the testing project. Right? Failure to mitigate risk can result in dissatisfied customers, negative cost impact, adversarial user experience, loss of clients, even lawsuits. So you need to conduct risk-based testing. Risk-based testing, right? Risk-based testing can be understood as an approach, right, of conducting relevant testing for the identification of business risks, which have potential to pose significant damage to the software's organizational stature. Right. So I mentioned earlier in this course that certain Nigerian company lost a lot of money to the tune of 50 something million dollars, right? Just as soon as they opened up operations of their new bank, right? And this loss was due to customers finding a bug in their software, right? And capitalizing on that bug to make unapproved withdrawals to their account. So let's say they found a bug in the software that allowed them to make withdrawals from an account that had no money. And customers withdrew a lot of money in the space of a few days, and the company had to shut down their software to mitigate the loss. And they are still trying to get back some of those funds from the banks where some of those funds were sent to. This is the kind of scenarios we are looking to avoid, when we talk about risk management. Now, to that company, they've suffered loss of funds, they've suffered customer dissatisfaction, they've suffered, a blow to their reputation. So it's very important that risk-based testing is conducted on software, right, to avoid this kind of scenarios. So there are different categories of risk. There's project risk, right? There's this category includes all the risks which have the potential to stall or negatively affect the progress of the project, right? Inclusive of organizational risk. This risk is associated with your testing team, your HR team, right? Scarcity of manpower, lack of skilled personnel, it's a risk. Technical risks, possibility of loss which might be incurred as a result of execution of a technical process. Business risk, a risk which emanates from an external party and it is not from the project under consideration. Might come from customers, right? The result of any untoward incident which the company faces, right? Just like I mentioned earlier, financial loss now for the company, right? Might push the company to slashing project budgets, which only result in aggravating problems for those responsible for executing the project. So there's also product risk, right? It includes all those risks which may result in the failure of the software to meet the expectations and needs of the stakeholders or the customers. It's associated with functionality of the product and might be in form of security concerns, performance issues, crash reports, etc. Right. So there's also scheduling risk, right? There are other variants of risk as well, which include scheduling risk, right? When project is not efficiently scheduled, right, to meet the deployment deadline. Budget risk, when top management ends up inaccurately estimating the required investment. Operational risk, including system failures, ineffective processing, or unforeseen circumstances. Of course, failure to manage risks efficiently can be fatal, right, for the interest of the organization concerned. The risk analysis not only helps to identify and manage risk, but also in developing appropriate measures for managing and mitigating risk, right? Failure to mitigate risk can result in reduced ROI, compromised quality on the software product, overstretching the deployment deadline, failure to meet project obligations, increasing production costs, customer dissatisfaction, so on and so forth. So, proper risk-based testing is crucial to managing risk as regards the software product, right? Helps in optimizing QA efforts, in meeting the time schedule with the expected quality, right? It also helps in providing for testing in order to ensure that customer satisfaction from a business perspective, right? Also helps to make sure that the customer is satisfied from the point of view of the business. So, what is the risk management process in software testing, right? Process involves identifying risk, assessing the risk, and mitigating the risk. So the first stage of identifying risk, you want to sift out every possible area that is risky, right? How do you do that? How do you do that? The QA team engages in the risk identification process, right? They are involved at the planning phase, ultra DLS, DLC, right? Of course, some of these risky um, scenarios are documented in the test plan. So the test plan has, a lot of space or a lot of sections to document risk, right? So they do this by analyzing, right, the documentation, for the project, right? Some of the common risks can be enumerated as shortage of resources, tests, a tight test schedule, like a test schedule that is too short, right? Incomplete definition of scope, delayed testing, natural disasters, unclear specifications resulting in defects at a later stage, non-availability of independent test environments, right? So how do they identify risk, right? You can identify risk through conducting independent reviews, retrospective meetings, sprint retrospective, acquiring opinion from experts, brainstorming, you know, with other members of the team, existing templates of risk, right? And revisiting some previous experience. So the risk assessment process and impact analysis, right? The impact analysis, right, of software testing is a very complex, delicate process, right? Needs to be dealt with programmatically, right? As it entails that you need to assign a level of risk to each item involved or each item identified in the first phase. So this step involves quantification and prioritization of all risk. You need to quantify and prioritize risk, right? Low, medium, and high values will be assigned to all risk identified, right? Want to know which one is high risk, medium impact, and low impact risks. So you also want to document it. You want to document all the risks identified as much as possible and in as much detail as possible. So the third step under the risk management test in testing is mitigation. Right. Once these risks have been identified and assessed, you begin to take steps to mitigate them. If the test schedule, if the test schedule is too tight, you take steps to improve the test schedule by maybe enhancing the time frame or adding more resource to complement, right? Um, you want to also, you want to also ensure that all your bases are covered with regards all the risks, the high impact risks. You want to ensure that those ones are the first, category of risks to be attended to and mitigated, followed by the medium impact risk, and then the low impact risk, right? So this risk management is not even an optional part of the testing process. It is extremely crucial because if it's not handled properly, it could result in huge loss for both the project team, the company, the business. It could result in business getting litigated. It could result in a lot of stuff. So you want to be very aware. You want to be very involved in risk management during the testing process. So that's all for risk management and testing, and I'll see you in the next video.